Good evening and welcome to the December 2nd, 2024 Governance and Priorities Committee meeting. As our Council has decided over the last couple of years, we've made some policy changes to help further develop councillors' skills in chairing meetings and those sorts of things. And so I'll have the privilege as the Deputy Mayor this evening to chair our December 2nd GNP meeting. I will call our meeting to order. Welcome. It's not often we see such a full gallery, and so that's a little bit exciting to see so many familiar faces and some new, and we look forward to hearing from you this evening. Members of Council, an agenda has been prepared and presented to us here. Administration, is there anything to add to our agenda this evening?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Nothing to add at this time.
And thank you for that. I'll look to Councillor Hansard with the motion, please.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I move that the December 2nd, 2024 Governance and Priorities Committee meeting agenda be adopted as presented.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll call that to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you so much. Next on our agenda is our public input session, which is the time we allow members of the public to speak to Council about anything that is not on the current agenda this evening. Administration, is anyone registered to speak?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, we have Rhonda Gauthier this evening.
Perfect. Thank you, Rhonda. If you wouldn't mind, please come forward. We'll ask that you print your name on the sign-in sheet there to your right. And, oh, perfect. And then when you're ready, you can push the button on the microphone. A red light will light up for you. And take it away.
Testing. Okay, it's good. Good evening, Deputy Mayor, Council. I've come this evening to request a revision to a particular bylaw. The bylaw in question for tonight is bylaw 2647 G21, which is the public tree bylaw. And I'm doing it because of an issue that has arisen in the area of Westera that I live in. Particularly 6.5.0 of that bylaw, which says no person shall secure any object to a public tree, putting in anything in the branches of a public tree or cause anything to be put in the branches of a public tree without manager approval except for Christmas lights or an extension cord. And then 6.6.0, without restricting the generality of section 6.5.0, no person shall secure newspaper vending boxes, bicycle racks, dog chains, clotheslines, guy wire swings, or a treehouse to a public tree. I live on Westera Boulevard, and behind me I have a natural conservation area. The particular location of this is behind Westera Loop, to the east of Westera Loop, but in the natural conservation area that is behind where I live. For the last couple of years, one of the residents in the area has been putting a Christmas light display in the trees on that land. And last year I thought, well, maybe I should bring it to the attention of bylaw. And I think they did speak to the person, but they said that there was no restriction on placing that public display in that particular area. Now, that natural conservation land is to be kept under the guidelines in the land use in a state that preserves natural landscaping and drainage patterns, creates and supports habitats, and encourages ecological sustainability. I disagree with the idea of having Christmas lights in that area for three reasons. Primarily, the first reason is that that particular area is very much so home to a large number of wildlife. In fact, for the last 2 years, we have had a mama moose and her 2 babies that have been traversing through that area exactly where those Christmas lights were. And because of the low-hanging lights and strings, and it was like a Griswold Christmas display last year, it was huge. I was really worried about the moose, that they would get tangled in that unnecessarily, and it's a real job getting a thing of Christmas lights off of a moose, and it scares the habitat, the animals in the habitat there. Secondly, I think there's a liability issue of allowing residents to put extension cords, big extension cords, because there was a lot of light, junction boxes, and then all the minor extension cords that they had strung. It was strung all the way through the trees for about 50 feet. It was a huge display, and it was very pretty, and I love Christmas lights, but not in that area. And thirdly, I think it really has a particular liability for anything that might happen there, because technically speaking, if you allow Christmas lights there, then the town assumes responsibility, not the resident, because they are just following the guidelines that says Christmas lights can be put on the trees. Now, I think Rotary Park is an exception. I think that's a town-sponsored area, and I think that the Christmas lights there should obviously be maintained and continued, or any other town initiative for Christmas lights, but not in this area. So, in short, I would like to see the bylaw reflect that so that we don't have that issue with people thinking that the natural area, the natural conservation area, is up for grabs for development of any kind of Christmas display. So in short, I'm asking that that perhaps be considered to be changed, and perhaps the bylaw could reflect that for the future. This year, I don't see any lights yet, but I think it's been too cold to put up Christmas lights in the last little while. Last year, the display went up at the beginning of December, and one year it stayed there until the middle of April, and then they finally took it down, which was really not acceptable to me. But that was during COVID, and I thought, you know, we need a little joy in that area. During COVID, we were all stuck in our houses, so I never questioned that smaller, much smaller display that year. But as the years have gone on, it's just grown and grown and grown. So that's why I'm here today, is to request a minor change to that and have it reflected so that we don't have residents putting up Christmas displays in our parks or on the boulevards or in natural areas. So thank you for your time. I hope that you will consider this. This year, if it goes up, I'll let somebody know that it's up again and they can have a look at it. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Perfect, and thank you for being here, Rhonda. Before you sneak away, we'll maybe allow council an opportunity to ask some questions, but
Okay.
I just want to offer, thanks for sharing your concern, certainly for the wildlife in those areas, and certainly we have a need to balance, celebration of cultural events and community, as well as making sure we look after our ecological areas and those sorts of things, and so I appreciate you bringing that forward this evening. I'm going to look to council. Do we have any questions for Ms. Gauthier this evening? Okay. I do have one question for administration just before you run away here. This bylaw, April 2021, I believe, was the when it came through. Is this scheduled to come through in the next year or two for council to review?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, for the question. I believe I'm being told it will be reviewed or is scheduled for review in 2025.
Okay, thank you. So within the next calendar year and potentially within this council's term. So
Okay,
thank
good.
you for being here this evening.
Thanks a lot. Should I turn the button off?
Sure, yeah, thank you so much. Going to look back to administration. Do we have anybody else registered this evening?
Through to the Deputy Mayor, no one else is registered.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there anyone in chambers this evening that would like to speak to council on anything that's not on our current agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to our presentations and delegations. We have 5 this evening, which I think is the most in my time that we've had in one evening. I know some have been deferred from other days due to a number of circumstances, and so we certainly appreciate our presenters' grace and accommodation in making yourselves available this evening. First on our agenda, we'll have Inspector Kevin McGilvery from the Parkland RCMP Detachment. Welcome, Inspector. Please come forward. As always, please sign your name on the registry in front of you, and I'm sure you know how to use that mic by now. So.
I think I'm signed in there, thank you.
Perfect.
May need a quick refresher on Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Deputy Mayor and members of Stoney Council. I was one of those that got deferred from my last meeting, so it's been a little bit since I've presented at council here. I think it was in the spring here this past year, so I appreciate your time and look forward to presenting to you tonight. Just a quick update. One thing that we're excited about with regards to resourcing, we've got 3 corporals that were announced on Friday. 3 constables being promoted to the corporal rank in Parkland Detachment. One of those constables is a member of ours now at Parkland Detachment. Another one's coming from Maskwacis, and the third one's coming from Warrenville. So they're all fairly quick. Don't have houses to sell, so we'll be able to get them in the seats here fairly quickly, which is good news. I'm just going to go through a few stats. I can go through these fairly quickly. There's not a lot that's jumping out at me as being too crazy here this quarter. Just a couple that I wanted to touch on. You'll see the second line there, robberies, and as many of you know, a robbery is some type of a theft with any type of a weapon or some sort of use of force associated with it. So you'll see from last year, we went from 11 last year to 4 this year, and that's from January 1st to the end of October. So that's trending in the right direction for armed robberies. Sexual assaults are also trending the same way. You can see it was fairly consistent over the last 3 years, and last year we had 20 and down to 13 so far this year. I know there's lots of chatter about theft of motor vehicles. I just want to point that out. In 2023, last year there was 63, and this year there's been 70 so far. And I've got a slide in a couple of spots here. I'll just touch a little more on that. The other one, I think I've pointed it out before, but I just want to bring attention to it again, is possession of stolen property. It was 32 last year, up to 45 this year, but this, of course, is one that we want to see trending higher. That means that we've caught these folks in possession of stolen property, and we've put a big emphasis on our crime reduction unit over the last year. We've got 4 people associated to that, a corporal and 3 constables, and their full-time job is just touching up on the prolific offenders. And again, I'll touch on it in a little bit, but they've had some really good success. You can see and these stats are just for the town of Stony Plain, of course, not our entire detachment area, but just in the town of Stony Plain, we've caught 42 people in possession of stolen property so far this year. The one on this one, I just wanted to touch base because it could raise a few eyebrows, is the fatal collisions. We've got 3 so far within the town of Stony Plain this year. I just want to reiterate, one of those, it was an industrial accident, so it wasn't on a public highway, but it did involve a vehicle, so it's listed under our stats as a fatal collision, but that was an industrial accident, and the other 2, unfortunately, were collisions within the town of Stony Plain this year. So each year, our fiscal year runs from April 1st to March 31st, and we set goals for ourselves in conjunction with input from yourselves and parts of the community. We look at our stats, and there's a number of different ways that we just set our goals for the year. And we've got 2 objectives, or 2 priorities this year, the first being crime reduction and the second communicating effectively. So our initiatives under the crime reduction priority, again, it's the arrests on warrant apprehensions. So that's mainly what our crime reduction unit is doing. We set our goal to be 100 arrests, to clear 100 warrants off the system. And so far, since April 1st, they've got 83 arrests made. So they're well on their way to the end of March 31st to attain that goal and should be surpassing it. That really, and I know I didn't bring stats for our entire detachment area, just for Stony Plain, but when you look at some of the outlying areas too, you can see the effects that it's having by having those crime reduction members focusing on prolific offenders. We always say 5% of our clients account for 95% of our work, and it really is true. Some of these folks that are full-time criminals, if we can focus on them to get them behind bars, then we see certain types of crimes dropping dramatically. Another objective or a priority that we've had is the foot and bike patrols. Again, this is throughout our entire detachment area, but we aimed at 48 and we're at 45 so far this year. I think we tried to get most of them in the good weather. Should have been doing one today, so we should be able to make those. And we're just coming up on check stop season, of course, now. We've done 7, and we're aiming for 32. But you'll see a number of check stops, of course, in the month of December. And we're partnering with a number of our CPO partners, including the CPOs from Stony Plain here. And then our second objective is communicating effectively. So as you're aware from other presentations, we started a Facebook account this year. We aimed at the start of this year to have 1,500 followers, and we've surpassed that now, so we're happy with that. We've got a plan in place for next year to have a little more consistent messaging on there. We haven't got anybody specifically dedicated to our comms right now, but over the next year, we're hoping to get that person, and one of their duties will be to keep Facebook updated. Community engagement, we're trying to do 100 in total, and our community policing folks have been out to 70 different presentations and things this year. And school visits is a new one. This isn't including our 2 school resource officers that we have. This is general duty members and members of our community policing unit just getting out to every school. We've got 38 schools in our detachment area, and we're trying to get out to each of those, as opposed to our SROs, school resource officers, are only assigned to 4 of our schools. So we're trying to get more visibility in our other schools. Anybody's got their cell phone out, feel free to scan our Facebook code there. We'd love to get more followers. We've got a number, we put crime prevention tips up there, some of the latest crime trends. You could receive some emergency alerts, and especially moving forward, there'll be a focus on local investigations. So if you click on that QR code, you'll be able to follow our page. These are some of the events that we attended in Stony Plain itself. Like I say, we've done 70 different community events this year so far. That was us at the Stony Plain Remembrance Day service just a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, we've done a number of things since the start of our fiscal year. Fraud presentations, the Emergency Preparedness Day just outside here, Farmers' Days, the Citizenship Ceremony, Midsummer Thursday, the Remembrance Day Ceremony, and the Truth and Reconciliation Drum Ceremony. And right up till last night when we had folks at the Christmas light up. Yeah, just touching on the stolen vehicles. Like I say, we've got 70 stolen from the town of Stony Plain so far this year, fairly comparable to last year. And if you take yourselves back to when I was here in the spring and end of March, start of April, in January, I had the stats for the end of February. At that time, I presented the stats. Last year, we had 9 stolen vehicles in January, February. This year, we had 21. And I know there's been a lot of chatter on different social media platforms and stuff about the stolen vehicles lately, and there certainly have been some. But when you look at that, the majority of our stolen vehicles were in the first 2 months, and we've actually slowed down over the last few months here. But I put a note in there too that 40% of our vehicle thefts over the last month have had the keys left in them, and we find that each year, and we try to do as much advertising as we can to make sure you're not leaving your keys in the vehicle and the vehicle running. I just threw a few safety tips on here on how to reduce the chance of having your vehicle stolen. Again, remove the keys from the vehicle, use the steering wheel lock, never leave your vehicle running while unattended, keep high-value items out of sight, lock your vehicle, park in well-lit areas, and notify the police when you're reporting it if it has a GPS tracker. A couple of the initiatives, again, I think I've talked about them in the past, and they're still going on. We still do the Lock It or Lose It campaign. We'll be doing Operation Cold Start again, starting in January, where we'll have officers dedicated for a couple of hours each morning during the week, going around and checking on vehicles that are idling. We'll be doing it, but the bad folks will also be doing it, and those are the ones that are going and grabbing those vehicles. It takes mere seconds to drive off with your vehicle, so I'm sure lots of people have seen videos as of late of people pulling up in a stolen vehicle and hopping out and grabbing another one. So make sure you're using your remote starter or follow some of those other safety tips. And again, the targeted enforcement of prolific offenders, we've seen a fair amount of success with that. I just want to put a quick plug in and a little update on the Collision Reporting Center. This opened in the city of Spruce Grove at the Protective Services Building about 13 months ago now, I believe it was. They're open Monday to Friday from 8:30 in the morning till 4:30. And it's essentially... they'll take any of the collision reports except fatal collisions and serious injury collisions and hit and runs. Everything else can be reported through there. This again comes at no cost to our municipalities or to the RCMP. This is funded through the insurance companies. And I think the clients are finding better service. They don't have to stand in those long lineups at our counter. They're now dedicated over there. And it benefits our other clients that are coming into Parkland Detachment because they're no longer having to stand in those long lines either. It reduces thousands of people coming through our doors each year, so it's been beneficial for us. Just a reminder too, if you're going there to report a collision, you take your actual vehicle, the registration, insurance, driver's license, any information you exchange with the other driver, and any witness and passenger information as well. And they've actually, if you click on that QR code, you don't need to tonight unless you've just been in a collision, but they're now starting an online platform where you can click on that QR code or go to their website. You can fill in the majority of your information from your smartphone, and when you go in there, it's literally a matter of a couple minutes and you're back out the door. So it's good. And that is it for my presentation, and I welcome any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Inspector, for the presentation. Always informative, lots for us to digest. Do you want to make a quick comment or compliment? We certainly had officers, as you alluded to, at the light up last night, uniformed officers, and returning home last night, just kind of scrolling through some social media, there was a lot of people with pictures with those officers, just sort of celebrating that experience. And I know sometimes there are some that are maybe fearful of those interactions or leery of those interactions maybe, and so it's great to see the smiles together with community, and have seen that at a number of events throughout the year, and so kudos to yourself and your team. I think that's an important part of community policing, and we appreciate the focus that you put there.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's a big focus of mine, certainly, and I think everybody in this room knows how busy our folks are, but we still try to do those events while we can. So important to talk to people on the street and times other than when they are in their stressful moments, right? So, I was happy to see our folks there too, and I've encouraged them to attend all of our different Christmas events in our area, and you'll see those posted on Facebook too, how we're being involved in the Christmas spirit as well. Our office is also heavily involved with the Christmas hampers here with the Stony Plain Kinsman Club, and we'll be doing Stuff the Cruiser at Red Apple on December 14th, so, and a number of other events with the Kinsman. But
yeah, awesome, and certainly love the plug for the Kinsman, so I appreciate that. Looking to council, any questions for clarity and understanding? Starting with Councillor Hansard, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. It's always a pleasure to have you in council chambers, Inspector. I miss seeing you at the policing committee meetings, but I hope everything's running well and you're finding that time that you don't have to prepare for those meetings more useful. Of the, was it 72 cars stolen in Stony Plain? Can you give us any idea how many of those were recovered and were they drivable?
I don't have those stats with me, unfortunately. Anecdotally, the majority of stolen vehicles do get recovered at some point. Some might be within 20 minutes and some might be 6 months later. So I don't have those exact stats, but typically Okay, there's typically two different types of folks that are stealing vehicles. One is they utilize those as a crime vehicle. So they'll steal a vehicle and then they'll go and do armed robberies or do other break-ins and stuff with those vehicles. And then the other folks are ones that are exporting them or doing it locally too, taking them to a chop shop and tearing them down and trying to re-VIN them and sell them that way. But you've probably seen in the media, there's a big organized crime ring going on right now where they're deporting them to other countries. If you go on Africa's comparative to Kijiji, you'll see Canadian vehicles in there still with Alberta plates on and that sort of thing. So it's organized crime. When you're seeing vehicles like 3 or 4 missing in a night, typically that's organized crime coming in, grabbing those vehicles and getting them onto a cargo ship and off to where they can sell them. I know that doesn't really answer your question, but I don't have the exact stats for you. There's a mix. Some come back damaged, some come back still drivable. At the very least, if you have your vehicle stolen, I highly recommend a mechanical inspection be done, and I'm sure most insurance companies would recommend that as well, but you certainly want to have a mechanical inspection done to make sure it's roadworthy.
Okay, and if I may, Mr.
Yep,
Deputy
absolutely.
Mayor. I know you've been a big proponent of people letting the RCMP know that they have doorbell cameras or cameras like we have door cameras over our driveway that also picks up 3 other properties. Would you say something about that, please, so that people who are in council chambers and others who will watch this on YouTube could be reminded that there is a way to help fight and get vehicles back and see who's actually committing the crimes?
Yeah, certainly. We've got a program we launched a couple of years ago. It's called Parkland Capture. If you go to that website, it's the general public can go in there and enter the location of their video cameras. So it's not public facing in that not anybody can just go in there and see where your cameras are, but that information is relayed to the police. And we obviously can't access your cameras in that either. But what it does is it gives us a list of people up and down the street, say, and if we have an event take place in the area, we could then quickly access or phone those people even and say, Councillor Hansard, we just had this happen. Can you look at your doorbell cam and see if you can get a vehicle description? So where that's important is in some serious events like an armed robbery or some type of serious assault. We might be able to get a vehicle description quicker and who knows, maybe even follow that through doorbell cams along the way. So yeah, Parkland Capture, it's a voluntary program. You can withdraw at any time. We don't access your cameras directly, but you may receive a phone call from us asking to look for video and then potentially to hand that video over to us if it helps us in an investigation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hansard. Mayor Choi, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you for coming and present, Inspector. Appreciate that. Just one quick question in terms of, I think mostly everything's trending down, which is good. I do have to question about the fail to comply and breaches trending down. Our average for the 5-year scenario is down 37%, and year over year is down 28%. So are we having an issue to enforce those breaches and compile, or are we just not having enough staff, or are there just less people that need to be sent back?
So that's a unique one, and good eye on picking that up. I could have brought that up. It's over a year ago now, there were some legislative changes, and so there's certain release documents that no longer allow us to lay a fresh charge on a breach. So what it would be is that if we catch somebody breaching one of the release documents that they're on, it's not a new charge that is laid. It's a case where we take them before the judge and say, this person breached their current order, and then the judge deals with that directly rather than laying a new charge. So that speaks for why those have been reduced.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll turn to Councillor Palechko, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Inspector, for coming. I always enjoy your speeching and I also enjoy you in the town a lot, so thank you for that. My question revolves around two things, so let's talk a little bit more about the cameras and what purpose they serve to the RCMP and what purpose they serve in a court setting. Specifically, when somebody just calls in for a complaint or somebody's had something stolen, how do they help in the prevention or with the arrest of that individual? And is it admissible in a courts?
Yeah, it's good question, good topic. Again, it's essentially voluntary if somebody wants to put their video forward. If we were aware of that video, we could do a search warrant if we wanted and take that video anyway. Typically, it's done voluntarily. It really depends on the quality and what's in that video. There's such a variety that could happen. If it's, say we get quite a few with the porch pirates, they call them, right? They're going in and stealing parcels off the lot. If they're right up to the door and they're bending down and that there's a good facial shot of them right there, and we can use that to identify the person, then we're going to have some good luck with that. Other things, I don't want to put too many of our trade secrets out and into the public, but there's other things that we can look at too. A lot of people don't change their winter coat, they don't change their footwear, so we look at some of those things, and we may be able to identify them down the road. So the parcel thing is a good one because we utilize door cams a lot for that. They might have hit 3 or 4 different houses in town, and then we catch them just in a traffic stop with a bunch of parcels in the back in somebody else's name. So if one of those houses had a good photo of that person or good video of that person that shows that they're wearing this jacket and pink shoes or something, that can certainly help us out. And yeah, it's admissible in court. There's always a potential that the owner of that video could be subpoenaed to court to provide evidence to say, this came from my doorbell cam and I didn't alter it and that sort of thing. So there may be a potential that that person may have to go to court. But Crown or Defense may include that without questioning them too. So, yeah, it's definitely helps us out. There's a lot of video too, I must say, that I see on different platforms, social media platforms that say the police had the video and they didn't even catch the guy. And then I do monitor things myself, and we've got an analyst that watch things, and we'll sometimes go and pull that video, and some of these videos, you can almost tell that there is a person in there, but you're never going to identify the person in the video. But we utilize the ones that we certainly can.
Thank you for that. If I could, one more.
Yep, go ahead.
So the last little while I've noticed on social media, and I've been directed to watch it a fair bit, had my own incident not that long ago, as you're well aware of. One of the things that I've been asked by a number of residents is, and I'm wondering if you could speak a bit to it, is Saturdays, Sundays, and Fridays seem to be a high theft for our community, and it's almost every weekend we're seeing it in a rash of things. And I'm wondering what is happening at the detachment to help to address part of that problem. We see it on a consistent basis. We see the same people, the same vehicles doing the same thing over and over. And what concerns me the most is the comments that have been being made by some of the people, and it's frightful. I was put in a position not long ago that was very frightful, and I'm just wondering what we can tell our residents that might make them think twice about some of the frightful things that might come out of them.
Yeah, so people are indicating Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. I'd mentioned earlier about our crime analyst. So we have a criminal analyst that looks at all of our statistics, and that's his full-time job, trying to find criminals electronically, essentially. So, and he puts data together that helps us focus our target areas. So he'll look specifically at that, high crime times, high crime areas, and then we can deploy certain resources based on that. And that's not always a marked car. There may be unmarked cars. There may be other assets that we try to bait people with, but we base our to a police officer, who knows what they're going to do with a member of the public, right? So I know some people, intervention tactics utilizing police vehicles. Intervention tactics utilizing police vehicles. Suffice to say, we now make contact with suspect vehicles too. I'll leave that part at that, but we have different techniques that we use because of their changing tactics. We've had to change ours as well. You know, there's no secret. We use spike belts and stuff like that, but we also use vehicle tactics where we're trying to get those vehicles to stop. But leave that to the trained police officers and not to a member of the public that's angry about the situation. It's very dangerous out there when you're dealing with these. Get as many details of the incident that you can and report it to the police.
Thank you.
I appreciate the way that you ended the comment there, report, and the conversation around crime statistics and data analysis only works if we have up-to-date information. And so certainly, making sure as residents that anything that's going on that has a crime component to it does get reported. I believe, and if you wouldn't mind, Inspector, maybe comment, they can call the detachment, the non-emergency line, but I believe there are some online ways that people can report a crime as well. Maybe you can touch on that briefly.
Yeah, you bet. So for, obviously any emergency, you're calling 911. Yeah, and then we also have the complaint line for less severe incidents. And then you had mentioned the online reporting. So for minor things, theft of a bicycle, for instance, you can report that online and enter all the details in there. That's actually, so we've gone to that online reporting and the callback unit, it's called. We went to that about 3 years ago as a division in Alberta here. And because we are very, very busy, our folks, they're not always getting back to people that had their bike stolen or some of these minor, and I don't want to minimize those thefts, but they're more minor when we're prioritizing our calls. So by going to the callback unit, there's a group of people in K Division that get assigned those files, and they will call the folks back, make sure that they've got all the information entered online, and then speak with the folks to get about crime prevention techniques and that sort of thing. So if you query Alberta RCMP online reporting, you can find that because it is important. Because some people will think, somebody stole my garden hose, not important to report, but you never know. Again, if there's somebody stealing down the street and we catch them down the road, and in the back is that garden hose, we'd never suspected it was stolen. But if it is reported, then we might, as little as it is, we might get it back to you, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the additional information there. I'm going to look down again to Councillor Loyens, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I was going to ask about cameras, but Councillor Pletchko took it from me, so that's okay. Looking at some of the stats that you have provided, I'm noticing what I would consider a huge uptake in spousal abuse, going from 165 last year to 233 this year. And it says spousal abuse survey code reported. Can you explain that one just a little bit more to me? Because in years previous, the numbers were 233, 247, 251. We've seen a huge drop, and now we're seeing a huge uptake again.
There's, especially with spousal abuse, it's sometimes tough to judge exactly why it's happening. I can say that over the past 5 years, it's been weird with statistics because of COVID and that sort of thing. That affected a lot of it. So it may just be a case of it's normalizing after COVID. Part of it could be too, and again, I'm just guessing because nobody really knows for sure. But it could be, I know our folks have done some different presentations too over the last couple of years, working with various organizations within the area and talking about domestic violence and trying to get some folks out of that circle of violence. And so as you normalize that conversation, sometimes people are more comfortable to come forward too, so we may see more simply through that as well. I know it doesn't really answer your question, but for that one, I can't really say exactly why those ones are increasing at this point.
Okay, and then just another one.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then in another one that I've seen an uptake was the roadside suspension for alcohol. Because I know we don't have enough information for the drug suspensions, but the alcohol, I see we're at 20, which is only an increase of 3 from last year, but we've only completed 7 of 32 check stops, I believe you said?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and knowing December tends to be more of that month that we see more of that happening, is this a concern in the sense that we will see this again skyrocket into numbers, or?
So that's another interesting stat, similar to possession of stolen property. So if we may have we work on a watch system, we've got 4 watches, and I find with stats like that, if we've got a couple of people that are keen on doing that type of enforcement, because that's all proactive enforcement stuff typically. So same thing with that. If we've got some members that are specifically going out to test, to do the roadside test on folks, you're going to see that number increase. And I think that's probably what the increase is here. And like you say, check stop season is just coming. And you'll recall a couple of years ago too, legislation changed. So we used to need to have reasonable suspicion was the threshold in order to read the roadside device. Now the threshold is simply that you're driving a motor vehicle on a public roadway. So what the members are supposed to be doing, every time a vehicle is pulled over, the first thing they should be doing is a roadside screening device. And a lot of people are taken aback by that, because they could be taking their child to school at 8 in the morning, and you want me to blow in this, but that's the legislation, and you'd be surprised how many people are driving impaired, even at 8 in the morning, taking their kids to school.
We're looking at 20 of them, so
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
apparently. Okay, no, that's good, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Loyens. Councillor Meyer, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Inspector McGillivray, for coming. I just want to get back to some of the questions that Councillor Plechko was asking in regards to theft. So, spoke with a gentleman this past week, actually in Sturgeon County, so maybe not our area, but he recounted this interesting story about having his vehicle was used in what you call the further thefts from a stolen vehicle. And then anyhow, he recovered his vehicle, and then there was several stolen items that had some markings, and he contacted those people himself and actually got them back to the... So I'm curious, what efforts do we do to reunite those stolen items? Because I see that's great that we're getting more people with possession. So what do we do to get those items back to those people?
Yeah, we'll find that quite often. Like, we might get a truck that's been stolen, and it is literally packed to the ceiling with other stuff. We can't always prove that it's, for us, we need to be able to prove who it belongs to. And so a lot of those things are tools, and like tools seem to be a big one that people steal. But I don't know about you, but I don't take pictures of my tools, or you should write down your serial numbers. I'm not going to say whether I do or not, but you should write down your serial numbers for anything that has a serial number. But most of us don't, right? Let's be honest. So it's pretty hard for us to prove some of that type of stuff, unless it's got a VIN number or something like that on it that's tracked. It's difficult. And it's not really... We're not in the business of thinking, well, maybe it's yours and we'll give this to you. So if we can't prove it and we don't know whose it is, it'll simply be left in the vehicle. And sometimes when the owner picks it up, they go, I don't want this stuff in here, it's not mine. And other times they'll take it and clean their vehicle out. But we do make efforts to try to. Sounds like this guy was able to return it himself. I don't know if he found some names in there or something, but he obviously found something that led him. But typically, the police officer would try to return what he can as well.
Okay, so no computer or online program working for that yet, though, hey?
Nothing for that, but if you have any ideas, you let me know.
Okay. Another one, if I could. So I always gripe on Amazon, and I go, they don't pay their taxes, and they lean on our police force to do their theft prevention services. So I'm curious to know how much time, you did mention the porch pirates, how much time do we put into that? And so I can maybe better judge if we're, getting ripped off by Amazon as well.
Yeah, we certainly look at that. Like, that again falls to our crime reduction unit, our 4-member team that goes and focuses on that. And of course, this time of year is ripe for the picking. There's lots done this time of year, especially with Canada Post being on strike. Everybody's utilizing the courier companies, and so there's a lot of stuff out there. Anecdotally, listening to the radio, I heard some complaints there last week that our folks were following some other folks that were following the UPS truck. But it's hard for me to say how many, like, put a time frame on how much we're doing, but we'll certainly follow up on those. An interesting story from about, I think it was last winter, we had started getting into the schools to do some school visits. And it just so happened that the very first day that one of the members went to a school in Spruce, the principal came up and was talking about somebody that was missing from school that day. And they had a chat about that student. And when that member came back to the office, another member had a porch pirate stealing some stuff and sent the doorbell cam around to the office and said, that's the student we were just talking about. So, some of it's just pure luck like that, where the stars align. If we've got good door cam footage from those type of things, our analyst he's got a whole network of people from different police agencies, different detachments, doing the same job. And they, like, when you send that photo out, there's a number of times when they can identify that person too. So that's another way that we catch the porch pirates. And then the last thing we do is we do utilize some electronic ways of tracking different things that may lead us to some suspects there as well.
Okay, well, thank you. I'd be interested to get more follow-up on that, in the future.
Yeah, specifically on time frame?
Yeah, how much time we spend on that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer. I'm going to look down the table for any additional questions this evening. We'll go to Mayor Choi.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just another question in terms of stats for the inspector. So under the false abandoned 911 calls, I've seen an 80% drop year over year. Can you just provide a little explanation on why the 87% drop?
So with those there, they've changed the policy, the divisional policy on those. So they're not all getting dispatched to our members. I don't know if I've talked about the real-time operations center that they've organized in K Division now. It's come down through different issues we've had across the country. And so they've got a team in there. It's comprised of an inspector, a superintendent, a staff sergeant, and then there's a sergeant on each watch, a couple of constables, and an analyst. So they work in KDIV. They're monitoring calls that come in. They'll share information. If we had a white truck stolen here, and now an hour later there's an armed robbery with a white truck in Morinville, they'll put those kind of things together. But one of their jobs as well is to look at different calls like that. So that might simply be, we get a number of like false 911 calls where the cell phone that hasn't been in working order for years, it'll automatically dial 911. So they'll do different things to follow up on that. It's no longer dispatched to a member, but it'll be diverted at the call center itself. So that speaks to the reduction in those. It's freed up a lot of time for our members, to be honest.
Do you have a follow-up there, Mayor Choi?
I just want to thank you for that information. I just want to, again, thank you and your members for what you do in our community. I remember a few years ago, council had to deliberate about adding additional dollars to our budget for the criminal analysts. And from what we've seen over the last quite a few years since we've added that has paid back in spades. I think the biggest thing that you've said, and actually and also Deputy Mayor, is to make sure everybody reports something. Because the analysts will take that into consideration, and that all gets broken down to a spreadsheet, so they know where they can expect people to strike and where they hit. And I think it does come back. So again, we definitely appreciate the work that the RCMP has done in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Going to do one final look. All right. I do have one follow-up question, if you don't mind, on a presentation that was made. You brought a colleague with yourself. I believe it was a pilot project, community engagement, doing some foot patrols and actively engaging with residents and that sort of thing. I wish I could remember his name, but he's got a really great mustache.
Bobby Hinman.
Bobby, thank
Yes.
you. Maybe just a quick update on that pilot project and how things are going with the work that he's involved in.
Yeah, so that actually speaks to the slide where we've got the annual performance plan. He's focusing on those and is going really well. Like I said, our frontline folks are so run off their feet. In years past, we've had a hard time meeting some of our goals because they're just responding to calls. By cutting Bobby off of the front line and having him focus on these specifically, he's been able to get out and do those foot patrols and bike patrols, and now he's organizing, he's not doing a one-person check stop, but he's organizing them and meeting up with our CPO partners, RCMP Traffic Services, the Alberta Sheriffs, and we're getting some of those done. So it is, by looking at the stats on the annual performance plan, it's going well, and he does have a great mustache.
So I'm jealous, not going to lie. It's pretty great. Thank you for being here this evening. Certainly it is a privilege to have you here. The leadership that you provide to our CMP in our area to keep our community safe is commendable. And the visibility of your membership, the engagement with your membership has certainly been great to see over these last few years and how that continues to grow. So thank you again for your time, and we wish you a happy holiday season as you go forward with your check stops and all of these other initiatives. So thanks you again.
Great. Thank you very much.
With that, we'll move on to item 4.2 of our agenda, which is a presentation from Westview Health Centre. I believe we have Ellen Elliott and Heather Dursling with us this evening. Thank you for being here. Now, I believe the inspector was already signed in. Are you ladies already signed in as well? Oh,
Yes.
perfect. Oh,
Yes,
I
we are.
appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
So if you don't mind, speak directly into the mics, and we look forward to hearing from you this evening.
Thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure to provide an update on Westview Health Centre. I'm Ellen Elliott, the site director. Heather Dursling is the executive director for the suburban hospitals and the Sturgeon Hospital. And we're happy to share some exciting news. We are, in Alberta Health Services, we're very excited to announce that we have fully implemented the Connect Care system provincially. I'm sure you've heard about that. What I want to speak to is what difference that makes for patients. So every Albertan who interacts with the health system will now have a single electronic health record that if you're seen in public health or home care or the hospital, emergency surgery, all of that's going into one record. It does not mean that every healthcare provider sees all of that, but it's all there and it's accessible to you through the MyAAHS Connect. And so this, the experience that we're seeing is that having that health information available to healthcare providers at the time of care delivery improves the quality of care. Last year, we talked about the health service planning that was underway in our area, in our service area. So I can let you know that the Westview Health Services Area Plan has been submitted to the government this past September. And the capital planning and decisions around that will now be led by Government of Alberta. But we had excellent public and stakeholder participation with lots of input regarding the current services and services needed in our area. Westview Health Centre was recognized this year in our Accreditation Canada audit for an area of excellence in communication access. And I spoke about this a bit last year, but it's an initiative that's being implemented provincially, and Westview was one of the pilot sites. And it's really about ensuring every patient has opportunity to speak for themselves. And we look at how we can use tools, interpreters, and strategies to ensure that we can hear the patient's own perspective and that they can give consent to their treatment and have input into their care planning. The helipad usually comes up, so I thought I would just discuss this again. So the helipad at Westview was closed in 2020, and that was as it was no longer meeting Transport Canada standards, and there has been a provincial review underway with that. However, we have found that our patients are safely transported by EMS ground transport to higher levels of care in a very timely manner, and so from a care provider perspective, it certainly has been meeting our patient needs. Emergency department, I won't go through the statistics, you can see those on the board, but what I can talk about is the numerous strategies that are underway to address ER wait times and also quality improvement care. Connect Care, certainly we have seen the standardization and best practices shared through the Connect Care. It will trigger pathways that are best practice for care, and so the teams are really finding that that computer support for best practice is really beneficial. We have implemented nurse-initiated protocols, which means even if people are still in the waiting room, the nurses are able to begin things like lab tests, diagnostic tests, and other interventions so that they have that information when they actually get in front of the physician. We've also done a lot of work both within the zone and around the province, and certainly at Westview, regarding EMS and ensuring the EMS is back on the road as quickly as possible. And so I am pleased to say that Westview does very well with that. Having the patients handed over from EMS to the emergency department team and enabling that team to get back out onto the road is a top priority, and our site does very well with that. Family medicine, we now have 25 funded beds. It continues to be one of the challenges at Westview, is that we certainly have more inpatients needing beds than we have the beds available at this current time. But we have worked very closely with our primary care physicians, with home care. We are looking at another initiative that's available within the zone called Virtual Home Hospital. So we're looking at all of the strategies that are currently available to our patients to have them safely moved on to their next care quickly or back home with available supports. One of the pilot projects that we have undertaken with the Westview Primary Care Network this year and that will be shared provincially is Transitions of Care pilot for patients who are in the inpatient unit and are being discharged home and are identified as being high risk for readmission to hospital. We are now phoning the family physician's office and doing a handover to the family physician's clinic that the patient is being discharged from hospital, and we're actually booking that follow-up appointment. The primary care physicians are appreciative of that. It means that they don't have to worry about determining that information themselves. The patients are very happy to have that appointment booked and to know that their physician knows that they were in the hospital, that they're home now, and that they're coming in for their appointment. So that's been a very successful process, and we are working now on sharing that information with other hospitals in the province. Long-term care and hospice continue to be very active. We have 40 long-term care residents that live at Westview, and we have, this past year, we've had 87 admissions for hospice care in our 6 hospice beds, and both of these services continue to get very high positive response from the patients and residents who live at Westview. The surgical and endoscopy program continues much the same as it was last year. We're providing 4 primary services at Westview: the women's surgery, general surgery, cataracts, and strabismus, as well as endoscopy. And I think I had reported that we had many, many surgeons coming out to Westview within the previous year. That has narrowed slightly, but what we have is a core group of surgeons now committed to providing the surgeries at Westview. Again, doing the lower acuity day surgeries at our site, and then their higher acuity and more complex cases at their secondary or their primary site. Ambulatory clinics continues to be a growth area and an area we're focusing on, trying to pull as much as we can from emergency or making services available that the family physicians can refer directly to. This past year, we opened a new urgent neurology clinic. So family physicians can refer to the urgent neurology clinic patients who have new symptoms and need to be seen within 1 to 3 months. This has been a real win for our area, and it was our chief of medical staff who was able to make the connections that we could set this up in our area. Public health nursing, primary focus is the care and support of families with new children, as well as the immunization. And that workload is really now much more shared with community pharmacies as well in terms of adult immunization. But immunization of children under 6 continues to be the responsibility of public health nursing. Home living, again, is a huge program and growing. As I mentioned previously, we have many, many clients in the community on home care, and they're supporting people who are just as sick sometimes as those in the hospital, and certainly with high levels of care needs as well. And we all acknowledge that family caregivers are a huge part of that, and there's a number of programs and services available to family caregivers to recognize the important contribution that they make. Recovery Alberta Health Services Mental Health and Addictions Program was relocated to the Stanwell Ocean Building last summer, and that consolidated both adult and children's services in one space, making it easier for the patients who attend, as well as improving the transition of care when they go from being a child services to adult services. It has improved that. We continue to have access. Any Albertan can access Recovery Alberta 24/7 at the number provided. And Recovery Alberta is continuing to provide some outreach clinics at Evansburg, Paul, and Alexis. We have an Indigenous cultural helper working with us at Westview, and we've had a wonderful year of building understanding, relationships, and effective communication with our Indigenous patients and community partners. And really the focus is on ensuring access to culturally appropriate care for patients, and we do that by building understanding and ensuring that the policies that AHS has in place for culturally appropriate care are well known by both the patients and our staff and physicians. Westview continues to be part of a number of community collaborations, including the Dementia Collaborative, our Transitions in Care pilot project with the PCN, and the Gender-Based Violence Collaborative that is currently one of the priorities in our community. I would also like to take an opportunity just acknowledging the incredible support that we have from so many in our community. Westview benefits very significantly from charitable organizations, the Westview Health Center Foundation, Light Up Your Life Society, and the Westview Hospital Auxiliary, which is our gift shop ladies. And it does make a tremendous difference for us in terms of being able to get priority equipment and instruments patients quickly, and we really appreciate that. And I've included just a couple of other photos. There are numerous ways that people support the health center, and we have donations of quilts and fidget blankets and toques and for babies. The Kinsman has supported our team and just provided great encouragement for us through their Kindness Day. And then, of course, as I said, the donors provide a lot of well-needed equipment that are identified by staff and physicians as the priorities for their areas. We also want to say thank you. We also recognize the support that Mayor and Council gives to us, and we just, on behalf of the staff and physician, want to extend our thanks.
Wow. Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you for the presentation, and in kind, certainly we want to offer our thanks to the work of yourself and your team. As you went through this evening, what kept coming through my mind was this idea that complex challenges require innovative solutions. And, there's so much change right now in our health service provision in the province, yet, we can see some of the things that are being done to improve patient outcomes, to reduce wait times, to be able to take some of that forward, the pilot projects you referenced, and share that learning with others around the province, and so certainly taking a leadership role. And we're very proud to have Westview here. I know members of council are strong advocates for the work that you do, and we appreciate your presentation this evening. With that, we'll look to council for any questions. Councillor Hansford, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Welcome, ladies. I am curious, on page 29, I believe, of 105 in our council package, there is reference made to the emergency room visits, 23, 24. Is that for 1 year or from a certain time in 23 to a certain time in 24?
Yeah, our fiscal year is April 1st through to March 31st.
Okay, thank you. So it's 1 year, 27,203. And also reference to 3,172 EMS arrivals. Together, that totals 30,375 people coming into that emergency room. Are the EMS arrivals part of the 27, or are they in addition?
They would be part of that.
Oh, then I don't get to add that.
No, you don't get to add
that. So what I'm curious about is every once in a while we hear about people who have lengthy times only to find out there's one doctor. One doctor. Is that on a regular basis? One doctor available for emergency room? Or is that certain days or certain shifts of days that there's a problem getting those positions filled? Because I don't know how that gets processed. I mean, that's a lot of people even in a given day. So maybe if you could explain to us what the issue might be.
Sure, and again, like most things in healthcare, it is rather complex, but I can tell you that in our emergency department now, we have 4 shifts of physicians, and they overlap at certain times of the day. We do use a lot of data analysis, and it is fairly predictable when those busiest times will be. And so there are certainly times when there is only one physician, and there'll be times, of course, where there's 2 physicians on at a time. And what that looks like is our physicians have made very significant attempts to get a 5th shift, but it is actually very hard to recruit emergency department physicians, and there aren't volumes of candidates available for all of the positions that are available across the province. Our emergency department leadership has looked to family physicians with emergency department experience to support some of that. We also are using, as I mentioned, other strategies to enable the team to work together differently. So, for example, the nurse-initiated protocols, the nurse can begin some of that work prior to the physician seeing the patient. And even things like discharge coordinators, so trying to use the entire team to help with that patient flow and efficiency. Ideally, yes, it would be great if we could fill that fifth shift and have more times when we have two on. And we continue to work towards that, but we are constantly looking at other strategies to support that patient movement.
Okay.
And I would also add that the emergency department, of course, is run by triage, and so the most seriously ill or injured are being seen and are being cared for in a timely manner. It is unfortunate. It is sometimes people with less urgent issues that are waiting a longer time.
And if I may, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I know we've got a population growth that's happening in Alberta and in our region because we're part of the greater metropolitan region, high priority growth area. One of the things that I know is very hard for many people to get a doctor. And I think that that may result in more people coming into emergency for things that really are not emergencies, but they don't have anywhere else to go. They can't get into a doctor for 2 to 6 weeks wait just to get an appointment to be seen by a doctor, never mind what the issue is. So where do we end up? We end up at emergency. And I say we because I've done that once at least. So one of the things that I'm curious about is with that uptick in the amount of visits and the need that people are expressing, does that help us to get some kind of an argument in place for an expanded health center here in Stony Plain?
Sure. So thank you very much for having us this evening. As Ellen said, I'm Heather Dursling. I'm the executive director for all of the suburban hospitals around the Edmonton zone. And I was very involved in the community needs assessment, the health needs assessment for this area. And at the end of the day, the short answer to your question is yes, the emergency activity and the acuity of patients that we're seeing in the Westview area and presenting to the hospital absolutely does play a part in all of the data and all of the recommendations that were put forward to Alberta Health. So yeah, the short answer is it will indeed strengthen and demonstrate the need that this community has for services.
Thank you, Councillor Hansard. We'll turn to Councillor Laurie, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and thank you very much for your presentation this evening. 2 questions for you. The first being in regards to the new neurology clinic, and this may also roll in with the needs assessment. I'm just curious, when I was reading the release, it talks about the new neurology clinic and Westview being an ideal location because there's no additional equipment required. And I'm just curious because we've spoken lots in the past in regards to diagnostic imaging that Westview has a severe lack of diagnostic imaging because there is no CT, MRI, etc. And I would think that for neurology, that would likely be a very important tool. So I'm just wondering if you can expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. So the neurology clinic was actually very quick and I would say relatively easy to get in place. And it really is the neurologist seeing the patients and we provide clerical support. And the value of this is that it's an urgent neurology. So people are waiting many, many months to see a neurologist, but what our neurologist does is that urgent neurology, so people who should be seen within 1 to 3 months, and he does not require any kind of equipment. And so it was a quick service to be able to offer in our community, and particularly valuable for people to the west because there is not another neurology clinic to the west of Edmonton.
And if I may, many of these patients, if not all, would already have the diagnostics completed before the referral to the neurologist. So he would have access to those test results already. Now, it doesn't mean he may not want to do a repeat scan, and then, of course, they're going to different communities for that. But right now, he would have had all that information prior to having them seen in the clinic.
Okay, excellent, then, if I may. Perfect. And again, this may come down to the capital side of things. Obviously, as Westview has continued to expand services, it has caused a larger volume of people to be attending Westview at the same time. And this may, again, go to the helipad as well. Now that the helipad is not being considered as reopening or anything like that, has there been any consideration, or is there any consideration in the capital requirements in regards to additional parking? We also did hear some feedback when we introduced the traffic calming and the crosswalk on 44th Avenue from Westview staff about reduced parking along 44th Avenue. And so I'm just wondering if Westview and NHS, if you're doing anything on site in order to help relieve some of that pressure.
So any plans regarding the future development or redevelopment of Westview would take into account the helipad. In terms of parking on site or for patients, we really continue to just have the primary main parking lot. There is parking down for the continuing care, and then we're using the perimeter roads. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Laurie. We'll turn to Councillor Palechko, please.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. Always look forward to this one. Always nice to see you here. You made reference, so I'm going to refer to page 31. It's the long-term care and the hospice care that kind of caught my ear as we were talking. You talked about lack of beds, the need for virtual home, but you didn't really expand on the 40 long-term care residents or the 6 hospice beds for 87 admissions. Mm-hmm. If you could highlight a little bit more of that and what that need looks like and where that is as part of your assessment that you've done here over the last little while.
So first, virtual home hospital would not be a part of long-term care. Virtual home hospital is an acute care hospital service which is provided in people's homes. So those are two different things. When we talk about long-term care, the 40 residents are the people who live in Westview, and of course that's going to turn over time. The hospice beds, yes, 6 beds for 87 patients just demonstrates the length of stay that those people have within the hospice unit once they attend Westview. So they tend to have a fairly short length of stay, likely around 2 weeks, 14 days is the average of the length of stay patients stay in those beds. And so they are in demand, absolutely, and they are never empty, for sure. In terms of where the assessment lies, I'm not privy to be able to share specific details. With Alberta Health taking over planning, we have to allow them to plan. So the work that we did in terms of the assessment was to provide background and to provide data, and that's what we've done. And certainly the data does demonstrate in this area that there is a need for additional long-term care services as well as all different levels of continuing care service. So certainly that is part of the assessment that we shared with Alberta Health.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Palechko. We'll turn to Councillor Meyer.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies, for showing up. A bit of a touchy question. I'm just curious, because you see much of it in the news. Medical assistance in death, is that a service that Westview provides?
Yes, it is. And medical assistance in dying is provided at all Alberta Health Services acute facilities. It is a legal and approved procedure, and it is provided
Did you guys have any statistics or numbers that you can share with us?
Yeah, we actually don't share those specific to the site, but I can tell you that we have created opportunities for people to have medical assistance and dying at Westview in any of the care settings. So we can support them as inpatients, or if they're in long-term care or hospice, and even for people who are at home and choose medical assistance in dying, we can provide it as what I would call as an outpatient service. So there is a central access system through Edmonton that they would contact, and then we work together with them to provide that care wherever they might need it.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
And sorry, you said you don't share those numbers. Is there a reason why?
I think they are available publicly on AHS, but I don't think it breaks it down right down to by site. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Any other questions from council? Mayor Choi.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you for the presentation, ladies. Just a quick question in terms of, I think you said you submitted your request to Alberta Health Services in September of 2024. Can you share a few of those requests with council so that we can advocate? In the past, we've had Minister Range out, we met with Mr. Turton, we also had MLA Martin Long out as the Parliamentary Secretary on Rural Health, so that, we're singing from the same page, so we don't want to be asking and advocating for something that maybe you do not want.
I think it's a very good question. Thank you, Mayor Choi. The assessment spanned all layers of health needs within this community. So it spans from primary care through to long-term care, as well as specific data that supports the work that's happening at Westview, and as I've already mentioned, would support what we feel are needs in this community. In terms of specific details, I think many of them you already will be able to guess. We know that within this community there is a need for additional diagnostics. We know there's a need for additional inpatient services, the bed capacity. We know that we see a significant number of patients, and we know we don't have the capacity necessarily to admit them all. And so I think in terms of details, we're hard-pressed to be able to share exactly what are in the recommendations, but I think we have shared that in the past, and I think what we've shared today speaks fairly clearly to where we feel some of the needs are. And of course, the assessment also shares all of the data, and it's a shared data methodology that we used, which was approved by Alberta Health, so we are fairly confident that the data that they are seeing will also lead them in their planning to be able to make the same decisions that we think we're drawn to.
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor Choi.
Okay. Thank you for that, the answer. And then another question in terms of, I think Councilor Peshko kind of talked and touched on that in terms of the 40 long-term care beds that we have in our community right now. Speaking with our Minister Turton the other day, and then also the Minister of Health, in terms of building hospitals, it's quite expensive. Members of council have had tours of the long-term care areas, and those rooms are all designed to be full hospital available, has oxygen, has everything else. So in terms of long-term capital planning, would it be, in terms of advocacy, would it be more beneficial to advocate for a long-term care building or facility in the town of Stony Plain so we can free up those 40 long-term care residents that are in currently Westview so that we can open more inpatient beds?
Thank you again. That's a very good question, and I think a very accurate assessment. And when we, AHS, were accountable and responsible for planning, that's certainly one of the strategies that we had in our strategic options analysis for the Westview Health Centre. You're absolutely correct. The lower floor, which is where we house our long-term residents right now, would nicely lend itself to becoming additional family medicine inpatient beds. Of course, we need the capacity for long-term care residents as well as the community.
Go ahead, Mayor Choi.
Okay, thank you. And then another question in terms of, I think you mentioned one of the goals is to get the EMS out back on the road sooner than later, so having that transition. I think about a year and a half ago, my boy needed transportation to the hospital. So they took him to the U of A, and they've converted a hospital, an ambulance bay, so it's coming in as kind of a staging area. So they dropped him off there, they signed off, so he was in the ER bay, like the ambulance bay, until he was seen. So is that something that we did here too in Stony Plain, to utilize that ambulance bay for ERs?
No, we haven't created a separate new space for that EMS download or offload. Our patients are absorbed into the space that is available and is appropriate to their care. So sometimes people will be placed in the waiting room. Sometimes they will be given a stretcher if it's required. The staff basically will assess what is going on in the emergency department, and they will find the space that's appropriate to that patient care need.
Okay, thank you. And definitely appreciate what you ladies do for us in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to look down the table just one more time. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you again. Certainly the priorities that you've shared with us, I know a number of members of our council have had the opportunity to carry those forward in our advocacy to our colleagues in the provincial government, and will continue to do so. But from a grateful council and a grateful community, thank you for all you do. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
With that, I'm looking at the clock. It is about 6:30, and so I will call a break, and we'll return at 6:45. Thank you. Welcome back. Council just took a brief intermission here after a couple of presentations, and we will continue our evening with item 4.3 on the agenda. As Haley comes up, I do want to just thank those of you that are here in the gallery for your patience, indulging us there for a few minutes to refresh. Haley, thank you for being here with Skydancer Indigenous Cultural Society and Center. We look forward to hearing from you this evening. Oh, one more time there, if you don't mind. Perfect. Oh.
No.
No?
What did I do?
It disappeared on us. I think we've got Vincent coming down to give you a hand here. Thank you, sir. Ah, there we are.
How do I turn off the auto advance? It's automatically advancing. Tansay, Haley Fitzpatrick, Nitsigasson, Equus, Stony Plain, Iwikuan, Miigwech. Hello, my name is Haley Fitzpatrick and I live in Stony Plain. I am in the process of tracing my family history, and at this point I have learned that my grandmother was born in Peace River Landing. She was raised in an era where being Indigenous was not a source of pride, so didn't share her full history with us. And now that she has passed on, we are having to struggle through and research on our own. Roughly 18 months ago, I was introduced to Skydancer Indigenous Cultural Society. I first served as a board member, then Mistatim Journey Coordinator, and now Executive Director. Through this amazing organization, I have been able to connect to my Métis culture and find my Indigenous voice. I was able to participate in the Mistatim Journey program and create beautiful crafts I would have never thought I was capable of making. Beyond that, I also received knowledge and made connections with other Indigenous women that I hope will last a lifetime. This journey has brought me great joy and a deeper sense of belonging, something I wish for everyone who is willing to take this first step and walk through our door. My husband and I have raised our grandson for his full 17 years, and our youngest son lives with us as well. Since we are a multi-generational household, my journey is even more important to me because I can pass on what I'm learning to my son and grandson so they have the same sense of identity that I now do. Over the last year, Skydancer has experienced incredible growth, confirming the need for an organization like ours in the Tri-Region. Our programs often fill up in just days and are typically oversubscribed. Our participants come primarily from the Tri-Region, Lac St. Anne County, Edmonton, St. Albert, and Sherwood Park. We've even had folks travel from as far away as Slave Lake and Wabasca to attend a water gathering. They are Indigenous and non-Indigenous, come from all walks of life, and most attend multiple events and programs. In 2024, so far we have offered over 40 programs, events, and workshops with almost 1,500 participants. We continue to expand our programming based on participant feedback and requests. All this has been accomplished by 2 full-time and 3 part-time staff, along with a dedicated group of 5 board members that are transitioning from a working board to one of governance. In September of this year, we shared a draft copy of the Indigenous Accord with partners in the Tri-Region. The next step is to form a group of representatives from the partners and surrounding nations. We recognize many community members are at various stages on their path of truth and reconciliation, and we as bridge builders will need to be in many directions at once to keep people moving forward as we walk alongside them. While we are eager to have the Accord move forward, it takes as long as it takes. There is no timeline for changing hearts and minds. And in Indigenous work, the process is the most important part of the outcome. In 2025, we are starting the process for a new building that will be an iconic beacon in the Tri-region. The new building is in partnership with the Rotary Club of Spruce Grove and will house offices for our staff, offer meeting and events rooms, a large gallery, gardens of flowers, vegetables, and medicines, as well as a commercial kitchen. We are in discussions with Douglas Cardinal to design the building, which would also be a draw to the Tri-region. For those who are not familiar with Douglas Cardinal, he is considered to be one of Canada's most influential contemporary architects whose Indigenous heritage has strongly influenced his design. He is best known for his designs of the Canadian Museum of History in Gatineau, Quebec, and the National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C. For our economic sustainability, we are branching into Indigenous tourism. This is the fastest growing sector of the tourism and will not only benefit Skydancer, but also inject dollars into the Tri-region business sector and allow us to make further partnerships and strengthen existing ones. The potential revenue from tourism will enable us to cover our operating costs, becoming less reliant on funding and grants. In addition to the financial benefits, Indigenous tourism will also allow us to expose countless more people to Indigenous ways of knowing, doing, and being. Thank you for taking the time to hear our annual update, and now I look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Thank you so much for your presentation this evening. I know all members of council have had the privilege of attending and participating in events that have been hosted and held by Skydancer, and there's certainly been a time of learning and engagement and enrichment, and we certainly appreciate your role in bringing those events and activities to the Tri-region. We're going to look to council with any questions for Ms. Fitzpatrick this evening. Councillor Laurie, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you so much for your presentation this evening. Very interesting to hear about the planning phases for the new building. I was just wondering if you could share, will that be in the same location where your current facility is, or are you looking at a new location?
Right now, we're looking at that location in the area because of the historical importance of it, and we will be doing testing to make sure the ground and area is safe, and then a final decision will be made.
Excellent. And do you have any timeline as to when some of that testing may occur, when some of the designs may be ready to go or considered?
The testing should begin next year.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Laurie. Any other questions from council? Mayor Troy?
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I definitely appreciate it. I think it was about a little over a couple years ago when we first originally had the conversation about Skydancer and kind of the process behind it, and then the kind of presentation and asking funding. So council just approved additional funding for this year and next year. So hopefully we see a lot more programs that kind of support our communities and kind of allow our residents to have a better understanding of the relationship and the partnership and how we walk together in terms of bridging that gap from our culture to the Indigenous culture.
Wonderful.
Thank you. And then just in terms of questions for you, I think you said that your programs are just kind of filling up very quickly in terms of whenever it's offered. Are there plans to like increase those offerings? Like, do you have support and help to do that?
Yes, we're expanding our programming. I have quite a few proposals out for extending things like the Mistatim Journey, creating one that would cater to men and boys. We're looking at options where we can utilize more space so that we can offer programs running concurrently instead of struggling to fit into our tiny little area. So we are looking at a lot of options.
Thank you, Mayor Troy. Do you have another question or follow-up? Okay, thank you. Looking to other members of council. Seeing none, Ms. Fitzpatrick, thank you again for being here. I'm fortunate, I have a couple of students that regularly attend programs as recently as this weekend, and the stories that they share after participating in the programming and the offerings is something to behold. You know, there's something special happening there, and there's something special happening in the lives of many individuals in our community as a result of the work that you're doing and your team over at Skydancer. So thank you for all you do, and thank you for being here this evening. We will move on this evening to the next item on our agenda, 4.4. We have a couple of guests from the Stony Plain and Parkland Pioneer Museum. Roger and David, come on down. Look forward to hearing from you.
Deputy Mayor, members of council, thank you for giving us an opportunity to give an update about the Pioneer Museum. You know, it's been several years since we've been able to provide an update. I think, in fact, it was actually before COVID hit us. And I have to say, with the availability of a number of federal COVID grants, the museum came through in very good shape. And with the reduced expenses that we incurred during that time, we were able to put funds towards our capital fund and our maintenance funds, which certainly you'll see from a capital standpoint that we have plans for those funds. As we moved from COVID, we certainly were very pleased to see that our visitor numbers have returned to pre-COVID levels. And we're getting more and more calls from school groups, senior tours, and weddings all the time. In fact, if you look at our numbers, in 21, we had about 3,500 people attend the museum. And that rose to 17,000 in 22, and last year, we're over 22,000. And this year, so far, I think David has done some calculations, we're just under 23,000. So we're very pleased to see how the attendance and the visitors have come back to the museum. Our volunteer hours, our volunteer hours during those same years were 13,000 in 21, 17,650 in 22, and over 18,000 in 23. Now, we haven't done a calculation for the current year, but judging from what we see with the participation of our volunteers, we anticipate that it'll be at least 18,000 and possibly more. I'll focus now primarily on 2024. And the year started strong with our annual speaker series. We have that each year in the first quarter, typically in February and March. And this year we had a number of speakers covering everything from local film making, archaeology, and talking about Canada's involvement in Rwanda, which was a bit of certainly a sobering presentation for us. But we certainly, we're very pleased to have the opportunity to be highlighted on CBC's Our Edmonton TV program. And we've had a lot of comments from visitors, and they came to see us because they saw us on the Edmonton TV program, Our Edmonton. And it certainly has helped to raise our profile, not only in the community here, but a number of people from outside the community that have seen it. In fact, I had someone from Victoria tell me that they saw it and wanted to come in and visit. Our attendance was strong during 2024, and certainly You see the numbers there. Farmers Day was about 8,200 guests over the 2 days, and 3,200 guests during Canada Days. These are events that we partner with the town of Stony Plain, and we're very pleased to see how the community comes out, and certainly our space that we make available is very well used. It gets very crowded, especially on the Saturday. And on the August long weekend, we partner with the Bluegrass event, and the attendees there take in workshops, and there are a number of concerts that are held in our grounds. And so we really enjoy seeing those guests and being able to work with the Bluegrass group to support them. And it represents one of the things we do in partnering with quite a number of groups in the community. An event that we put on on our own during the year is our Harvest Fest, which is held during Alberta Culture Days. And this year, we held it a week earlier, which happened to work out very well for us for the weather, because you can appreciate when we're trying to do things out in the field and showcase early farming practices that weather can be an important part of that. And we had about 650 guests attend during that day. Over the course of any year, we have a number of restoration projects that we undertake, ranging from restoring buildings that we have, they require maintenance, and also restoring some of the machinery and implements that we have that we use as a base for telling the story of the development of this community. But probably the biggest one that we are really proud of is that we were able to, over the last 2 years, restore a 100-year-old CN caboose. You see pictures on the screen, you see the state it had come in, and you see how it ended up. And, you know, looking back, if we'd really appreciated how bad a shape that caboose was in, we may not have even taken it, because, wow. And we learned a lot about how cabooses are made because of the project. Thanks to the volunteers, their diligence, they were able to bring that caboose back to life, and basically the way it was originally designed, we were fortunate enough to have the original blueprints for that caboose. Another highlight this year is establishing a collaboration with MacEwan University. This is something that we've had in our long-term plan to be able to establish the Pioneer Museum as a researching museum. And through some connections that we had with MacEwan University, we were able to develop a collaboration defining some projects that would form the basis for some intern students coming on site and undertaking some research projects. So in January 2025, we're looking forward to having several internship students on site and doing research. You know, probably the biggest news, and something we've been working on for a couple of years, is our facility expansion project. Now, early in November, we had a sod turning for that, and several of council members were there. And that really kicked off our phase one of the construction of two 60-foot by 100-foot buildings. And those buildings are results certainly due to the support from sponsors like Town of Stony Plain, Parkland County, the province of Alberta, and commercial sponsors like TransAlta. They've been a big part of supporting this project. Burnco, MyShack Cranes, and Genex Corporation, and certainly people like the Pipe Fitters Union and so on, have been major supporters of this project to be able to get us to the point where we are building those buildings. If you went to that site now, you would see what we call Building 1. It's sheeted, almost. The roof's on. The doors are in, except the big doors. And so we can see the finish line on Building 1 of it being enclosed and completing Phase 1 for that building. Building 2, which is a cold storage building, the contractor is on site and starting construction. So we're very pleased to see those buildings coming to fruition in part of Phase 1. So we hope, unless something goes sideways for us, that we will have those two buildings, the shells put up by Christmas time, which is certainly is part of our dream, and we're very pleased to report that we've been able to achieve that and be able to have those buildings complete the Phase 1 portion. Now, Building 2, which will be housing our, be cold storage for housing a number of our larger artifacts, be it tractors or combines or whatever that are part of our collection to tell the story of the development of the community here. Building 2 will be finished at that stage after Phase 1. But Building 2 will be going on to a Phase 2, which we'll be looking to finish the inside, put heating in it, a concrete floor, and setting it up to be able to house year-round displays in a heated space. Phase 2 will be looking to apply for grants for that project, CFEP, federal grant, and we also have money in the bank that we've been able to develop thanks to contributions of a number of sponsors and as well through our management of our financial resources as well. So, as I mentioned, Phase 2 will be finishing the interior of the building, and it will house 2 permanent displays or exhibits. The first is the Power and Parkland exhibit. We've mentioned that a number of times, and it's really meant to capture the history of coal generation electricity in the community. And we want to really capture that story before we lose the opportunity with the wind down of some of the power plants and losing some of the access to some of the artifacts that are part of that story. The other part is a military museum or exhibit, and that will capture the stories of local people that have served and as well their contributions on the home front and looking over a 100-year period of time. So we hope to have Phase 2 completed in early part of 2026, hopefully having some grand openings, official openings in the summer and fall of 26, and we certainly be looking forward to members of council joining us for those official openings. You know, we've talked about these buildings, but it's really about the stories and the presentation of the exhibits that really make them worthwhile. And with that, with each improvement that we have and the addition that we have to our overall Pioneer Museum facility, our profile is raised, and I mentioned more than just the physical part, but also being part of the researching museum as another example, that we raise our profile and our ability to attract additional visitors and tourists to the museum, and especially to this area, the town of Stony Plain and Parkland County. And through that, and us being basically the best museum that we can be, but we also, through that, want to be the best community member and booster that we can be. So when we talk to our visitors, we certainly are talking about what the community has to offer. And so we say that we want to be a key part of the community. So thank you to the town of Stony Plain to both council and to administration for your ongoing support and helping us try to be the best possible museum that we can be. Thank you for the time, and entertain any questions you have at this point.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation this evening. It's great to see the progress on the new builds there, and it's exciting to see where that's going. You have an important job, and you help preserve the history, the stories of those that walked on these lands before, and you help that come alive for those of us that are here now. And you've done that in a tremendous way, and certainly with the expansion and the new initiatives, we look forward to seeing how those stories continue to be shared within our region. So thank you for that. We'll look to council for any questions. Councillor Plechko.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. More of a comment than anything, guys. Since my term on council, I have watched the Pioneer Museum grow and grow substantially. One of the things that really impresses me today is where you are and the funding that you've done and growing through your strat planning. I think that is something that when I first got on council, I was on your board, and I come there and I looked at it and went, we need to do some things, and you guys have done it. I'm so proud of what you've done. And the other thing that I'm really proud of is when you guys come to council, you have other members with you. That shows the support that you guys do at the museum. This museum is not just about the history of the community, but it's about the camaraderie that you create at that museum with all the people that come there. So continue to do a phenomenal job. I look forward to the grand opening of the new facilities that you had. I know you worked really hard to get them, and were disappointed at one point in time because of the CFIP grant not coming through, but persistent shows that you can do it, and you guys have done it, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Plechko. Councillor Hansard, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Well, I'm always thrilled when the Pioneer Museum comes to town and comes and visits us here at council chambers. I will tell you, I've been on council now, this is my 20th year, and the museum was always there. But somewhere along the line, and I think part of it is key people, perhaps the executive director for one, and other key people, former councilor, and former mayor coming on board with you all. Not that they made your organization, but they certainly seem to have lended some credibility to what you're doing there, and this is my observation. You have been tremendous stewards of the history of Stony Plain and district, and even taken in some history from other places from time to time. But you were smart enough not to be so overwhelmed with it. I don't know what you've done with the lamp collection and all of that, but you open your door and people will produce stuff for you, that's for sure. It doesn't mean that you have to keep it forever, because you can share it just like it was shared with you. The point is you kept it from going to the landfill by stepping in. From my viewpoint, you've taken an assignment and turned it into a passion. And I couldn't be more proud of you. Council always appreciates your civic appreciation. I'm not going to say nobody else does something like that, but you certainly have a way of putting a flair on it and making us feel very thanked for helping out. One of the things I've loved is that you don't always come with your hand out. You often come and tell us what you're going to do, how you're going to help to put Stony Plain on the map. And you actually have, in your own way. You've created a destination. And that is a lovely thing to see. So you've worked with other organizations beautifully. There are still some yet to be worked with. and I hope you will be successful in that in the future, because there's so much more this can become. One of the things that I think is important is that as you have been good stewards, you show others how to care for history and how to honor the legacy of those who have gone before us. And that is really, really important. I'm talking to you from my genealogist heart now, but it's so important. So thank you for the beautiful job that you do, for always still looking up, looking out, seeing out what else can be conquered, and how if you get told no, like on a grant that you've applied for, you don't just take no as a no. You go over, under, around, and through. And if that doesn't work, over, under, around, and through again and again until you actually find a way to get things done. So thank you for your example, your stick-to-itiveness, for what you have become in our community. I am forever grateful.
Thank you very much for those comments. Thank you.
Stick-to-itiveness. I'm going to have to jot that one down. I like that, Councillor Hansard.
I believe it's a word.
Tonight,
If not, we can coin it.
this evening it is, absolutely. We'll look to Councillor Lyons.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I was just wondering, when you talk about the collaborative partnership with Grant MacEwan University, is there a potential that you would now receive more grant funding or just more general dollars from the provincial and federal governments, being that you're with an educational institution?
Thank you. There may be some educational grants that we can access, probably perhaps getting some funding for the interns. As of now, I have no funding for the interns, and so the students that will be coming starting in January, I have no funds to help them out at this point. But once I can use the partnership and apply for those kind of grants now that I couldn't access before, it may not help us with either the operational side or capital side, but it would be the right thing to do to try and help these students and provide something for them when they're helping us as well.
Go ahead, Councillor Lyons.
Roughly how many interns were you hoping to have start in January and then throughout the year?
In our discussions, we're looking at 3. Right now, I only have 1 confirmed. So 1 will be their history department, 1 from the anthropology department, and 1 from the computing sciences.
Do you have another follow-up there, Councillor Lyons? Are you sure? All right. Mayor Troy.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming, and definitely it's always a delight to hear what's happening, what's new at the Pioneer Museum. Definitely appreciated the fact that a few of your members let me go into the CN caboose early before it was totally finished, and just to see the work that was going into it. And as you mentioned, you guys have to learn how to build a caboose, which you've never done before, to see how it all fits together, and to see it finally finished. It's actually kind of touches our heart, and I'm not too sure if you've had any connections with the CN representative here, but definitely that'll be something that we should have them out to celebrate that when it officially gets opened up. Just on behalf of our community, myself, I just want to thank you for the partnership and collaboration that you've done with the town of Stony Plain. Just not even mentioning those events that you've listed on here. There's many of the back support when we have events happening down at Heritage Park, that the Pioneer Museum is always there to lend a hand, to provide the extra space, and also then being an extra attraction to people that come to the region. I would say that through listening to quite a few shows, not just the CBC one, but we are also on radio as well, and we also had a whole bunch of different things that have come through there. You definitely put your mark in the museum world and also put your mark within the town of Stony Plain. So thank you very much for that dedication and collaboration. We look forward to many more years of that building our community together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have one downside from that is the volunteer that was in the picture that was on our PowerPoint has just gotten a real big head, and he's quite a ham now and requests, we have to pay for autographs, so there's a downside.
Oh, too funny. Thank you, Mayor Choi. Any further questions from council? Gentlemen, thank you for being here. In a difficult environment post-COVID, in a time of high inflation, many organizations are struggling to survive. And you, as a group, as an organization, as a community partner, have found a way not just to survive, but I would suggest to thrive and to grow and to increase your offerings to the community and engaging with, research, bringing more understanding to what makes this region so special. And so it's really commendable to see everything that you've accomplished. I know Mayor Choi, spoke to this, but you're a tremendous community partner, and then we look forward to seeing your continued growth as you move forward in the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we're going to move on to 4.5, a very patient man who's been in the gallery for a couple of hours this evening. That is Mr. Norman Leach with the Greater Parkland Regional Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for being here, sir. As always, I know you're familiar, buttons on and red light there, and speak directly into the mic.
Yeah, I feel like the speaker just before lunch. Everybody just wants it over with. So good evening. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the opportunity. We'll go through this relatively quickly, and then I can clarify or answer questions as anybody on council feels they need. So the center ran again this year. I think it's one of those things that gets lost. It got lost with me being the new guy, that it's open 12 months of the year. It's not just open in the summer months, but we keep it open year-round and provide services year-round. So it is up and operating again. We went this year with the theme of One More Stop. I, too, am a historian and an author, and W.O. Mitchell once wrote about small towns where the farmer would come into town and he'd buy something at the lumber yard. That money would then buy something at the shoe store. That money would then buy something somewhere else. And then in W.O. Mitchell's words, some bugger would send it off to Toronto and screw up the whole system. So our view was if we could get people that came in the door to just make one more stop in town, not just grab a brochure and keep heading to the Ukrainian village or Jasper or wherever, we would be successful. Had good luck with that. Some of our members really got on board. Others didn't see the value, so it's a work in progress. We'll keep working on that one as we go. Visitors came from as far away from as Australia and Dubai and everywhere in between. That 350 guests is a bit of a misnomer because we were asked to track where people came from by postal code or by country code. And so we only had one person in each group sign the document. So that 350 represents 350 groups from a single person to a family of 6 or 8. So the 350 is, you might want to call it vehicles that stopped. And even that wouldn't be entirely true because there's some bicycles involved in all of this as well. And so we gave them advice as to where they could go and stay. Our visitors, not surprisingly, 34% came from Stony Plain, Spruce Grove 22, Parkland 8, and then Edmonton, and then other. That's just the Alberta visitors. By the way, stop me if anybody wants any detail on this. Canadian visitors, biggest group, came from British Columbia, and then I have to admit, somewhat surprisingly, from Ontario was the second largest. I would have guessed Saskatchewan just because of proximity. I would have guessed that they were there. But Ontario was definitely 28% of our visitors that were not Albertan. And then all the way around to the smallest numbers, Manitoba, PEI, and Saskatchewan. So those were the numbers that were there. Out of the U.S., again, the vast majority, we didn't clarify 100%, but my impression, you have to know that I work right in the center. I often met guests. I'm the only one in the office that speaks French, Spanish, and Japanese, so I was often brought out to the front to be speaking to our visitors from Quebec, etc. When we did talk to the American customers, it seemed the majority of them were heading up the Alaska Highway. That was the primary destination, was to head up the Alaska Highway. Certainly came up very many times in conversation. Sometimes it was just visiting family, but they were there. And then where did we get our internationals from? The Netherlands, Belgium, Australia, Germany, United Arab Emirates. We had quite a selection of people who came through, and it was a real interest to see how they had heard about the region and how they'd come to stay. We attended 10 summer sessions events, 3 midsummer Thursdays, Farmers Day, Stony Plain Rodeo, and Canada Day. And if you were unfortunate enough to be there at just the right timing on Canada Day, some old guy was handing out stickers and pins because the staff had to go early. So I came in and finished out the day for them. Everybody in the office took a turn at being involved with it, not just the 3 young people that we had hired for the event. We invested, the Chamber bought a kiosk which allows us electronically to feature events that are happening, businesses that want to be on it, etc. It's electronic, it gets loaded up, it can put everything right to. If you're looking for a hotel, you can stand at the kiosk, hit the button, say, I want to make a reservation, and you can make a reservation right off the kiosk at a hotel or a reservation at a restaurant. It was not limited to Chamber members. There was a rumor around that it was only Chamber members on it. Any business that asked was put on the kiosk. So it was not limited to Chamber members, though we did use the Chamber member database to do the original population of data. But after that, anybody who came in and asked was put on the kiosk. And any event, whether they were a member of the Chamber or not, was put on the kiosk as well. It stays. It's a year-round thing. It keeps getting updated. I wouldn't say daily, but probably every second day there's updates made to it so that it stays fresh there. We extended the hours. The contract we have with Stony Plain said we had to have extended hours in July and August. We decided to do that in May and June as well, so we went with the extended hours, including the weekends in May and June. It was interesting from my training is in marketing. It was some of the things happened I wouldn't have guessed. The dead quiet period every month was long weekends. We had no one come in on long weekends. You could have shot a cannon off in the office and not hit anybody. But Mondays and Tuesdays, super busy. So we would adjust staffing next time to adjust to what we've now learned is when people are coming to the center. That doesn't mean close on the weekends, but we probably didn't need 3 people on long weekends. We could have gone with 2 instead of 3. So that's it. That's our very rapid report here, but I'm happy to answer any questions on visitors or anything else you would want to know.
Perfect. Thank you for your presentation this evening, and it's fitting that in an evening presentations from community partners that a very large, significant community partner gets to close things out in our presentation. So thank you for being here with us this evening. I'm going to look to council for any questions or comments. Councillor Laurie, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And again, appreciate the presentation. It's always great to see the information that comes forward in regards to the Visitor Information Center and how well it's being utilized. I do have 2 questions for you. First is obviously one of the new features of Rotary Park is the disc golf course.
Yep.
And I'm just wondering if you can kind of elaborate on what you saw and what you heard, being that you guys are right there, and how well utilized that asset was.
Well, we got some requests for information. Most, I would say 90% of the disc golfers bring their own equipment, so they just go straight out into the course and are gone. We did become the repository for lost discs. They came in quite frequently, and the Pretzel Shack is the official in-town repository for equipment, et cetera. So we would take it over there, drop it off for them, and then the community knows to go there to get things. There wasn't anybody that said a bad word. There was, I think, at one period, and it was in the entirety of summer, not much, but there was one period for 3 or 4 days where the weeds were so high, people were really mentioning it. But when it was discussed with the town, they were there the next day and it was done. We just didn't know there was a problem until the golfers came in and told us that there was. So yeah, it's been used well. We don't rent any equipment. We don't do anything like that, so we're not using it. We just guide them out onto the course as they come.
Excellent. Very glad to hear that that asset is being used well. The other thing, I did have some concerns raised over the last several months in regards to the condition and the access of the public washrooms. I just wonder if you could speak a little bit in regards to that.
Yeah, very clearly, the public washrooms are the one thing that makes this an unpleasant job to do, is those public washrooms. Councillor, both from vandalism, the chamber spent $3,500 to repair toilets, etc. this summer. That's out. I know you pay us to do the work, but that was $3,500. It didn't go to serve customers, except that we had to replace broken toilets, etc. The washrooms are also a repository, and I would say this with the RCMP representative here, they're a repository for drugs. People go in there, there's a set of vents right near the ceiling. They climb up there, they put their drugs in there, and then put the vent back on. And then when they need them to sell them, they come back in, take them down out of there. We certainly aren't in a position to go up and check, but we come in, and these vents that are at least 12 or 13 feet above the ground are frequently laying on the floor. So someone's been in those vents on a regular basis. It has been mentioned to the RCMP. They know of it, but catching someone is impossible. The person comes in, goes to the washroom, they jump up, grab their stash, and they're gone. And that's turned into some issues. We do have some issues around smoking marijuana on the premises. We're talking to people and asking them to leave. And we had one incident where a gentleman, for whatever reason, tried to get into the office and harm one of the staff, and RCMP had to be called. So just so you know, that those public washrooms are a draw. I wish I could say that every one of them is a nice family of 4 coming to wants to use the washrooms because their kids are playing in the playground. The cleaning cost alone on that is, we clean them regularly with a professional cleaning company, and they charge us $200 a week to clean them. So if we can find a way to make it better, I wish we could. They are open. I was given the instruction they had to be open when the Visitor Information Center was open, Councillor. So we have a timer on the door. It locks automatically when the staff was leaving, whether it was 4 or 5 or 6, whatever it was, and it opened when they were scheduled to be back in the office, 8, 9, depending on the day. But it's an automatic unlock.
Excellent, thank you. And can you elaborate then, obviously, with the winter season now upon us, the ice skating at Rotary Park is a very popular attraction. I'm just wondering, what would the access hours and days be for those bathrooms during that time?
They're closed right now because they were, again, just recently damaged beyond use. And if, I won't for the public record, but if anyone wants to talk to me privately, I can describe what it's like. They are deliberately vandalized. It's not like someone accidentally dropped something or whatever. Again, not a martyr. I'm a kid from Prairie Town, Prairie, Saskatchewan. I fix things, that's okay. But I personally probably saved the organization about $2,500 in plumbing repairs by going in and cleaning toilets. Someone had taken the water line and tore it out and left it laying and flooding into the bathroom. So these are not accidental things. These aren't somebody, their kid dropped something in the toilet and plugged. That's not what it is. These are definite. So I don't have a good answer for you. I wish I did. We will try to get them open again, get them fixed and cleaned. But if there's any help the town can do, sort of So what we're going to end up doing then is making those bathrooms available only during time the office staff are there. We're gone by 4. People who come in the evening to skate, they're not going to have. We could put the doors on automatic lock at 9 o'clock. Be no problem, but we would need some commitment that either town employees or peace officers or somebody could make an occasional tour through and make sure in those off hours. Otherwise, there's no one checking them, not when we leave the office at 4:30 most days, and not there at all on the weekend.
Thank you, and if I may, Deputy Mayor? And I'm wondering, actually, direct this through to our administration. Obviously, at some of our outdoor rinks, we do have rink shacks. They're heated, they've got washrooms, et cetera. I'm just wondering, how do we manage those? And are we experiencing the same level of vandalism that's being described as what's being experienced at Rotary Park?
Through Deputy Mayor to Councilor Lori and all of Council, in a couple of ways. So our teams, when they do their rounds, will generally just check on the sites when they're in the area or just going about their day-to-day work. If they do note any vandalism on town sites, they will report it and address it appropriately, depending on the nature of the vandalism or damage or whatever the incident might be. If there's excessive issues, the teams may reach out to our enforcement for some support. I don't know how often that generally occurs. I just know that the option's always there for them. But I would just say it's something that they look for. They're always trying to keep their facilities in good working order as they go about their business and the work they do in town.
Thank you, and maybe I missed it in there, but are we experiencing the same level of vandalism as being reported at Rotary Park?
Through Deputy Mayor, Councilor Lori and all of the council, I don't have exact stats in front of me right now to say one site might be getting more than another. There's something I can report back later, but off the top of my head, I don't have that information.
Okay, thank you. And thank you very much for the answers to the questions. I appreciate your honesty on that, and hopefully there is something that can be done in order to, help you out, obviously taking care of the facility, but also ensuring that our public does have access to those washrooms while they're enjoying Rotary Park.
In a big sense, one of the things would be to take a look at partnering to completely revamp those bathrooms into true public washrooms. It uses household toilets. They're easily susceptible to vandalism. We've actually, and I'm not making this up, someone took the lid off the 2 toilets in the women's washroom and unscrewed the handles and took the flush handles with them, whether they needed them at home or they were just doing it to cause a problem, but they actually got in and unscrewed them from back and took the handles. But if they were more industrial type washrooms, they would probably be a lot easier to keep open, but that's an investment that has to be decided on.
Thank you, Councilor Lori, for the questions, and certainly appreciate the comments there. Something was noting, the fact that a water line is open and easily accessible to even be, pulled off. And we have organizations across the country, whether it's Parks Canada or otherwise, that have, these types of public amenities that are available. That I know have some solutions that may be worth a conversation at a later date, so I appreciate that. Looking down the table to council, any further questions or comments this evening? Mayor Choi.
Okay. Thank you, Norm, for coming and making the presentation, and definitely, I understand the kind of the issues there in terms of keeping the washrooms open and usable in a kind of clean and manner. But you thought maybe like a partnership in terms of making a fully, truly outdoor public washroom. So I think from what I've understood from what you've said in the presentation, it'd probably best if it was kind of standalone, so it's not attached to the building, so that water doesn't leak in, and there's no, if there's a fire in there, it doesn't burn down the chamber building.
Well, it's about the vision, to the Councilor Lori's question, is it open for skating? Well, we're not there on the weekends, and so they're locked because there's no one to supervise them. If they were made, as I say, if we weren't using, they're just simple house toilets in there. They're easy to damage. You can imagine what it's like. So it's a question of what's the vision. Is the vision to have it part of us? Then we would need, there's going to be some real renovations have to be done. If they're an outside, I don't know what the right term is. I call them porta potties. But if that's the solution, then council will have to determine if that's an appropriate thing to have in the park. We're wide open to a discussion about it, but it is the one part that makes the job. Entertaining people from around the world, that's fun. Hosing out washrooms is just not.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you and appreciate that. And I just want to offer a kind of a comment in terms of why Saskatchewan only has 2.6 visitors from Canada. Is because knowing a few of our members that work for administration are from Saskatchewan, they've told me very many times that they can just stand on their chair and they can see into Alberta anyways. So that's probably why they're not coming.
Yeah, we watch our dogs run away for 3 days where I'm from, so yeah. It's,
Thank you, Mayor Choi. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you again. As we've shared this evening on numerous times, or numerous occasions, we appreciate the community partners that we have here. The Greater Parkland Chamber is a tremendous partner and does tremendous work in the region, and we're very grateful for all you do. So thank you for your time this evening.
Deputy Mayor, if I could too, we have now moved to using GPRC as opposed to that full long name, which is hard. So we've gone kind of through a mini rebrand to try to do that. Legally, we're still the Greater Parkland Regional Chamber of Commerce, but otherwise the phone gets answered, Chamber, can I help you? Or GPRC, can I help you? So.
Oh, there you go. Well, and council will appreciate that because I'll use less words and we'll be out of here quicker. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
With that, it concludes our presentations for this evening. We'll move on to number 5 on our agenda, the adoption of committee minutes. We'll look to Councillor Palechko, please, with the motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, that the September 3rd, 2024 Governance and Priorities Committee meeting minutes be approved as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Palechko. Council, you've had the opportunity to read and review the committee meeting minutes for September 3rd, 2024. Did anybody note errors, omissions, or corrections? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. That moves us on to number 6, business items. We have 2 items on the agenda this evening to take care of. We'll begin with business item 6.1, the RCMP Municipal Crime Statistics Report, as presented by Inspector McGilvery this evening. Administration, do you have anything to add to the presentation from earlier tonight?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, we do not.
Thank you, sir. With that, open the floor. Does council have any additional questions for clarity and understanding on the presentation? Okay, seeing none, I'll look to Councillor Loynes with the motion this evening.
That the RCMP Municipal Crime Statistic Report be accepted for information.
Thank you, Councillor Loynes. Looking around the table, any debate or discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, we'll call the question again. All in favor? And that is carried. 6.2, the next business item, something that we've been hearing about for the last couple of years, so I'm excited for this one. The Water Loss and Water Replacement Program update. To administration, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We're also excited to present this tonight. We do have the town's manager of infrastructure operations here tonight to provide a presentation and update the council on the water loss item. Prior to him giving his presentation, I did just want to add some words of thanks to our operations and corp services team for their dedicated time and efforts to bring us to this point in this update to council for dialogue tonight. This is, as the manager's presentation will show, there has been some efforts made and some progress made on this matter. But I just wanted to add that while there is good news in this presentation and progress being made, there is still some initiatives that are contained within this current corporate plan that was just approved that we are still intending to keep working on, that will help further improve improve our position on this matter, as well as just make some good investments for the town going forward. So I'll now turn over to the manager of infrastructure operations for his presentation.
Deputy Mayor, Council, I'm here to present the water meter program update for Q4 2024. This presentation will review the history of our water loss and water meter program to date, overview of the water loss that has occurred, water meter program, and then next steps. The town's approach, the town became aware of a water loss concern in 2021. Initial approaches were to monitor and work with the Water Commission on water meter measurements. And in 2023, town began taking steps to address this water loss situation. And of course, municipal water systems are built in different phases over time and are expected to experience losses. So between 8 and 10% is the average loss that does occur, and we started to see climbing of losses in 2020. A maximum loss in 2022 of about 21% of total water purchases. And then we have started some implementations, and we have up to date a 9.53 this year in 2024. It is quite variable month to month, but at average a 9.53 at this time. Some initiative results. The town utilities and environment team did commercial meters, went to all commercial meters within the town, inspected both anti-tampers and the device installations themselves, and were able to install anti-tamper devices on those systems that did not have them and ensure that they were installed correctly. There was a section of water line between Rotary Park and Camping Class that was, when we were doing sound evaluations, was in question. So we did close that line and shut down that line to see if there would be a change in that water loss situation. This line has ability to loop around and not affect our water system. So this closure did occur in late 2023. The water meter replacement program was approved in 2024 to replace water meters in a program way between 2024 and 2031. To start this process, Diameter Consulting was awarded a contract to guide the town through sort of the advanced meter infrastructure decision-making process this year in 2024, a procurement of water meters in 2025, and then implementation 2025 to 2031 for the rest of the program timeframe outlined in the corporate plan. Next steps, continue investigating irregular commercial account information that's done through finance as water billing does come in. Select a water meter system for implementation, and then implement leak detection in the corporate plan is a future step that we can take. As water loss is a normal condition of water systems, administration is continuing to take steps to actively reduce the water loss over time, but it will take time to understand our water loss across our system. At this time, if there is any questions, we can answer.
Thank you for your presentation this evening. It's nice to see, I know 2 months remaining in the year, but that 9.53 certainly reflective of the years 2016 through 2019, sort of on par before those leaks were detected. And so certainly some good news with those numbers trending downwards. I'm going to look to council for questions. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just going to page, I believe it is 100, page 100, speaking of next steps, just for clarity, when it says we're continue to investigate irregularities in commercial account user data, is that like theft?
The account evaluation is done on a monthly basis on water usage. So if there is an anomalies noted in the building, finance does look to take a look at if there is an anomalous occurrence. We'll look at that usage and make sure that it is identified to utilities.
Do you have a follow-up, Councillor Meyer?
Just, again, for clarity, so would I read that as there can be mistakes that occur in billing, or like I say, would we more characterize that as like theft?
Through your worship to through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Meyer and all of council. I believe what the manager is trying to get at is irregularities can be a number of different things. So certainly, as I presented to council a couple of years ago, there's in the measurement, there's a couple of categories that we look at. You know, our infrastructure, our measurement, being some of them. And in the measurement, there can be some irregularities with maybe the billing process. I know there's been a couple of water meters that we've identified that maybe weren't the appropriate size through our process of going through there, that can create irregularity when they were first installed, that was just never caught. There can be instances of perhaps there was a connection that was unknown to the town or even the builder at the time when the house was constructed, and we have to put those, we have to tag those out. And theft is a possibility that we haven't caught, that we haven't found any indications of that at this time. To the best of my knowledge at this time right now. But the fact that you can, it's an open system with people who are knowledgeable of the system that know what they're doing, that could occur. However, at this time, I don't believe that's what the manager's getting at, is that those are the irregularities being reported.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Looking to Councillor Laurie, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Refer to page 98 of our package. It's speaking about the area of the water main that's been closed. Just recalling from memory, was this not the location of a pretty significant break? And can you explain if that contributed or whether that was any indication of an issue in the area?
Through Deputy Mayor and Councillor Laurie, all council. So you're correct. The most easterly part of the line that's highlighted, I believe, on page 98 of the package there, is the location of the wire line break that occurred, I believe, in about 2022. So there is a valve chamber that's been installed there, and so whether that break has contributed to any issues with the line isn't. I don't believe it's a direct. There's a direct line to that. It's probably a. There's probably some correlation to seeing the break and the condition and age of the line as a whole. It is an older line within the town's inventory. It's the answer is it's not necessarily one or the other. It's probably just a factor of different things. However, that's the location where the break did occur is where was one of the locations where the isolation occurred. So we were able to isolate that line from there.
Okay, if I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much. In light of that, and I know we don't necessarily see the full network build out here, but we've seen through some of our different plans that have come forward about ensuring that there are multiple connections or loops in the water main, knowing that we do have some high value assets down there, such as Heritage Park. I'm just wondering, so we're understanding that the closure of this line does not create any issues in relation to things like fire flows or what have you for that area?
Through Deputy Mayor and Councillor Laurie and all of council, the staff had the exact same question prior to us initiating any isolation of this line. So I can assure council from our technical review of this, there's no concerns with this line being shut at this time. So I'll elaborate a little further. We did look at it from a technical purview of is there appropriate looping through into the North Industrial and around town? The answer is yes. There are a couple other crossings that the network makes across 16A. We also did look at pressures and in terms of from a modeling perspective, that is, and we did conclude there's no concerns from the town staff at this time that there's any issues with fire pressures or just pressures in general as a result of this line's closure at this time.
Excellent, thank you very much, and I'm sure nobody's going to miss that hydrant out in the slough, because I don't know if it's ever been accessed, so.
The first time for everything. Yeah. Any further questions or comments here on the presentation? Okay, seeing none, I'll look to missed one, Mayor Choi.
Okay.
He is slow.
Yes, I'm used to letting everybody have their hands up first, so that's, in terms of that line that has been shut off, just, is there any plans to replace that line?
Through your worship, Deputy Mayor, and to Mayor Choi and all of council. At this time, we're just monitoring it. Maybe I'll elaborate a little further. So there are a number of other crossings that for the system to be appropriately connected. So it's always good to have more lines connected through the network than as you can afford and are needed. Right now, we don't see this as a network impact to having this line closed. At this time, there isn't a plan to necessarily replace it. It's something that staff or ultimately staff are going to consider what's the best next steps with this line right now. As we go into the future, there are, as council knows, we're doing a couple of master plan updates through our utilities in the near future, and we're looking to leverage that renewed information to help us answer some of these questions if this is indeed needed for the TOM's long-term growth aspects. At this time, though, there is no immediate plans to put that in front of council to decide for any funding.
Do you have a follow-up question or comment, Mayor Choi?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just in terms of questions of water loss, I think there's an acceptable loss. I think in the report it said 7 to 8%. In the presentation, it said 8 to 10%. So in terms of us monitoring water usage, we do have an unmetered flat rate water for developers and construction people. How do we monitor that? We've heard stories from many of our residents that they have a leaking toilet and they've cost them $1,000 over the year, that, over the couple months that they're gone on holidays, etc. If a leaking toilet can cost, a bill of $1,000, an open, unmetered faucet in a housing site can cost us tens of thousands of dollars over the weekend. So how do we monitor that?
Through Deputy Mayor to Mayor Choi, what we've done is we've actually implemented and purchased some water meters for developers and for that bulk water. What we would do to actually bill it out, when we do get a request, we actually provide those meters and try to meter as much as we can to avoid a bulk water situation.
Follow up, Mayor Choi?
Yeah. Thank you. And in terms of, I appreciate the work that's gone on to kind of identify certain areas. So I think in our corporate plan, one of the areas that we're doing is 43rd Avenue, 43rd Street, in front of Marina Heights. So definitely that's an older part of the line. Do we see other areas within town that need to be done within the next couple of years as well, so council can be more aware in terms of planning?
Pardon me, through Deputy Mayor to Mayor Choi and all of council. So right now, the town's heavily involved with a couple of parts to your question. So there's a lot of our focus has been on the Meridian Reservoir, as council knows, as well as planning for opportunities to align major infrastructure projects, such as you mentioned, 43rd Street. There's our staff in the background are also looking at or have recently made a lot of progress through this file and some other initiatives to better understand the records that we have available, so we can see age, condition, age and location and material type across the underground. Is it something that we can't see, as many know? So the next steps are trying to turn that into a longer term asset management plan that we can leverage at a level that I believe you're asking for. That also ties back to the utilities master plans, which help us leverage that information as well as the growth. There's the stuff we fix, and there's also stuff we grow into, and then trying to get those plans harmonized so that we can present a plan to council that we know we can achieve and makes the most sense for the town going forward.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Choi. Certainly appreciate the line of questioning. I know a couple of years ago, there was a report on the national news talking about the makeup of some of the pipes and the materials used and whatnot. And, this question around the lifespan of our utility mains in the municipality has come up a few times. For my own understanding, is this something that would need to come through, strategic planning and corporate plan in terms of an asset management plan for our water mains, or is that something that can be undertaken with the resources currently in place with the addition of the asset management position and so on?
Through Deputy Mayor and all of council. So I'll maybe add some comments here to that, to what I just said. We're actively engaged in trying to create plans that are going to create clarity and understanding of where our priorities for replacement and growth are going to be. The underground is always going to be something that we rely a lot on our records, as well as investigations and information from our operations teams, so that we can best align all that information so we can make informed decisions on replacements. We've had a lot of success through other assets, through our asset management program, roads, sidewalks, trails, and things like, again, they're very accessible. We're getting into what staff are doing now is we're spending a lot of time trying to create plans that allow us to camera underground lines that can't be cambered, using available dollars so that we can best plan out where the areas of most focus may be, so that we can align our rehab plans in the capital plan and the corporate plans to that. So I want to give a council assurances. This is something that staff are working on right now. We're always looking to find ways to we always want to be further than we are. We're always trying to be faster. So certainly those are things that you would see come through the corporate plan and the strategic planning process.
And I appreciate that. I think the questions coming from when we look at, the water loss side, first notice 2021, we're now 2024. Like, certainly there's been some investment there in the diagnostic side and the remedy and whatnot. And appreciate that if additional resources are required, that will come forward to council to ensure that we have a plan in place that's robust as best it can be. Certainly, I think I may have even spoken to this a few weeks ago, but don't want a situation as happened in Calgary when we were there, where we're seeing a larger, almost catastrophic, if you will, failure within our own system. And so look forward to future updates. Any further questions or comments from council? And I'll look twice at Mayor Choi just in case. Councillor Loyens with the motion, please. I think I got cut off before we actually made the motion because Mayor Choi asked to speak. I know, but I picked you again. You told me that you were feeling left out this evening.
Middle child syndrome. That the water loss and water meter replacement program update be accepted for information.
Thank you, Councillor Loyens. Any debate or discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. That concludes our business items this evening. It takes us to number 7 on our agenda, which is council discussion. And I'm going to jump right back to Councillor Loyens.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor. I appreciate that. I just wanted to mention what a great event it was last night for the light up of our tree. It was so wonderful to see all of council get together and enjoy it with our residents. On top of that, it is part of our advent calendar for the town. But I did notice that today's advent calendar is letters to Santa. However, the links to the letter templates are actually all broken and they don't open. Is there somebody who might be able to tell me if that's going to get fixed?
Administration, please.
Yeah, certainly, Deputy Mayor, through to Councillor Loyens, we will have someone check into that forthwith and get it corrected as needed.
Thank you for that. I do believe Santa would accept loose leaf as well, if those templates aren't available, but
Yeah, but the templates are so much prettier.
fair enough, fair enough. I'm going to jump over to Councillor Hansard, please, with council discussion.
I have nothing this evening other than to say that light up was nice, very nice, cold, but I think we've been spoiled this winter.
And what a great looking tree.
Is that not beautiful?
Did the walk around, couldn't find a bald spot, and that's great.
It's a gorgeous tree.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Hansard. Councillor Pletchko.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to thank all the volunteers that come out to the tree lighting. I think it's phenomenal when we see local organizations coming out and providing to the community coffee, cookies, hot dogs, a number of things that were out there. So thank you to all the volunteers and the organized clubs within our community that put on the event last night. And a good job, Mayor Choi, on lighting up the tree. Next year, we need to add a little bit of magic. So I heard somebody say no more fire truck, but maybe a zip line or something. We can run the zip line from my place. I've already got it started, so you can run it from my house to there, and we'll see how you magically appear.
What about a parachute? Just throw them out of a parachute. Mayor Choi. I like that. Thank you, Councillor Pletchko. Councillor Laurie, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Again, just echo fellow councillors' comments. The light up, as always, was a fantastic evening. Doesn't seem to matter whether it's freezing cold or whether it's unseasonably warm. The turnout's always amazing, and it's just great to see the community come out. Again, it is a beautiful tree. I am a little sad that tree used to adorn a yard not far from my house, but obviously understanding it likely was causing issues. And so it's great to see that we still have a program in town that can offer such a beautiful amenity for everybody to enjoy, while also helping residents solve some issues that they may be experiencing. And with that, I guess just a question to administration. If residents do have a tree they feel would be suitable for this, I understand, I think we do have a bit of a waiting list, but what would be a process if there was an identified tree that somebody wanted to offer to the town?
To administration.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, through to Councillor Laurie, they can just grab their name and they can send it in to us and we'll put it on the long list. I think Darcy Carter has a very long list, maybe 10 years at least, so yeah.
Thank you, I really appreciate that. And maybe in the spirit of what I think it's between Halifax and Boston, there's a donation of a Christmas tree. Maybe in that spirit, if our list gets too long, maybe Stony Plain needs to consider donating a Christmas tree to maybe our neighbors in Spruce Grove, since they don't seem to have one.
I don't know how to follow that, so I'm going to move on to Councillor Meyer.
I don't know what I did to annoy you. I got passed over for any motions today, and then I'm the last one picked here. Everybody's already spoken about the light up, right? Yeah. But actually, Mayor Choi, it's there's only 2.6% of visitors from Saskatchewan, because actually they all come here and then they move and become our administration. So. They become residents, yes, there you go.
You know, I've heard that being the mayor is a thankless job, and apparently chairing a meeting is a thankless job as well. Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Mayor Choi.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just again, just want to echo the congrats and thanks to our community groups that have supported the Christmas light for many years. And again, they were out again yesterday. It was a great success, and I find that such a heartwarming, touching time of the year where I get to meet Santa, share a little bit of laugh with Santa. one of the privileges of being mayor is that I do get to go up on that fire truck with Santa to light the tree. And one of the reasons why I get the large Christmas presents, because I promise not to push Santa over the fire truck. So, we have a good understanding there, and when we see each other, we know what's coming, and we kind of both understand that, and that's why I always get the large present from Santa. So with that, just want to make sure it was a great event, and hopefully everybody will come out and share that the magical feeling next year.
We almost need like a parent guardian warning before the mayor speaks. It's like send your kids out of the room. Santa was not pushed out of the fire truck, kiddos. With that, we've had the privilege this evening to hear from many community partners, and I know my colleagues on council spoke to the many community partners that were out yesterday, and I hesitate to list them for fear of missing a valuable contributor, but tremendous gratitude to those community partners that took time this evening to join us here in Chambers, and those that spent time with us at the Christmas tree light up yesterday, with a special mention this evening to our administration, who put up with us when we think we're funny, put up with us when we're tired and grumpy, and put up with us at our best. But kudos and a special thank you to yourselves as well. With that, we're adjourned.